Days with Tonye Denise Lattimore. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I come on every Monday to give you some mind altering mental health messages. Try saying that over and over. So, today we're going to be discussing reparenting yourself, okay? And so you may be thinking, like, what in the world is reparenting yourself? If you haven't heard that, you want to tune in today. If you have experienced childhood trauma, this is one you don't want to miss because reparenting is something you will need to learn how to do. Okay, so first let's talk about what reparenting is. All of my sources will be in the notes, so go back and check if you want to do further research on some of this that I'm going to be talking about. So, what reparenting is, okay, first, reparenting is um, it helps you to deal with the unhealthy ways, thoughts, behaviors, patterns, all of those things that have been created from your childhood, right? And so, if you have had childhood trauma, you probably experience some of this in your adulthood. So, we see a lot, or I see a lot as a therapist, an adult body, but then the child showing up in the adult body. And a lot of that is this adult needs to do some reparenting so that they can get healed from acting out in the same ways that they may have acted out as a child. Example, throwing temper tantrums, right? As a child, many times, often a person would throw a temper tantrum because they didn't care. They just wanted attention. They, whether it was negative or positive, they wanted attention from their caretakers, right? And so it happens often as adults that people still throw temper tantrums. They just look different, right? The temper tantrum may be that they may cry, may threaten suicide, they may be loud, the loudest one in the room. They may be the class clown or create or make jokes, right? So that people have all eyes on them. Some may do criminal behavior, just anything to get others to pay attention to them. So, a little bit of background on me. I grew up in a strict religion, Jehovah's Witness, and so definitely experienced a lot of childhood trauma. Had parents who were in the house but not there, not like they were physically there but not very present, right? Couldn't provide or didn't provide what I felt I needed as a child, and so that is very traumatic, along with some of the religious stuff that happened to me as a child, and then as I got older ended up getting kicked out of the religion, and then not having interaction with my parents. So lots of childhood trauma there, and so reparenting myself has been key to help me to heal. So let me give you some signs, okay? I'm going to give you signs if you need to reparent yourself. One, low self esteem. So, growing up, I had low self esteem. What happens is, if your parents aren't there, if they aren't reinforcing or affirming, who you are, a lot of times you grow up with low self esteem because you don't learn who you are oftentimes until you get older. And I was criticized heavily when I was younger. My mother would criticize me quite frequently, and so that became the mindset that I did for myself. I would criticize myself, be very hard on myself. So that is a sign, if you are experiencing low self esteem, that you need reparenting. What else? Not being able to identify your needs. Oftentimes, growing up as a child of childhood trauma, needs, what were needs, right? Like, you never learned what your needs was because your needs weren't a priority. or your needs a lot of times weren't something that was fulfilled. Brief break. Take time to subscribe to my channel, right? If you would like more mind altering messages, all right? Go ahead, hit the subscribe button. So, we're talking about reparenting. So, not being able to identify your needs, right? That was another thing that I didn't even know. Like, needs. I have needs. I wasn't taught that needs were important. Another one, reliving your childhood patterns. If you notice yourself as an adult reliving some things, perhaps some ways of doing things that you were taught maybe as a child, not maybe as a child, you were taught as a child that was okay. And as you are now an adult, right, immaturity, um, you're doing things that are immature. So that is a sign that you need to reparent yourself. What else? Constantly dwelling on childhood experiences, especially those that were traumatic. You need to reparent yourself. Difficulty setting boundaries. I see that on my shirt, boundaries, right? I see that so often. So many people come to therapy and they don't know how to set boundaries. That's because boundaries was either very loosely had in their household, or they were very strict, right? And so the person can be very rigid or they can be very strict, and they still may not know how to set those boundaries. And then the other thing is have consequences, right? Because with boundaries, there needs to be some consequences attached to that. Not feeling safe in relationships. You could be in a relationship and you just don't feel safe enough because, one, you don't feel safe with yourself. You were never taught how to be safe with yourself. So a sense of safety not being present. You need to reparent yourself. Holding on to trauma or wounds from the past. I talked about it briefly. Immaturity. If you have abandonment issues, signs that you need to reparent yourself. Self sabotaging. That is so big, right? If you are one, you may even be in a healthy relationship, but you're afraid. There is some fear there that this person is going to leave you, or they're not going to treat you in the way in which they should. People self-sabotage for multiple reasons, right? And so if you find yourself self-sabotaging in relationships, that's a sign that you need to reparent yourself. You need to heal those. It really is your thinking, which leads to your behaviors, right? Which leads to pattern ways of doing things. So when you reparent yourself, let's talk about what reparenting actually is, according to Very Well Mind. It's unlearning those harmful and unhealthy ways of being with yourself and others. Because first of all, you have to, the first part is being with yourself, excuse me, self. If you don't know how to be with yourself, you're not going to know how to set boundaries. You're not going to know how to figure out what you need. You know, you're going to probably have some low self esteem, not feeling like you are worthy because those things have not been taught to you. Okay? So, unlearning those harmful and unhealthy ways of being with yourself, right? To making self a priority. And that's why self care is so important. And I'm not talking about self care going to get your nails done, hair, eyebrows, all those things. That's maintenance. I'm talking about inner self work, right? Self care, sitting down, perhaps taking time to really process when things come up, when you see patterns, spending time with yourself. Why am I behaving this way? So many, just looking within yourself to see how can I better me. That is self-care, taking care of your inner self. Okay. And so reparenting also is one of those things of, you know, what you missed or weren't given in a child, learning how to then give that to yourself as an adult, the adult being able to parent that little child that is within you. One thing that's important is to recognize, like, at what age the trauma really happened. And, that can give you some sense of what this child, your inner child may need. Because different age groups, a lot of times, if it's a 5 year old, what a 5 year old may need is different than what an 8 year old may need, right? And so, learning at what age did the trauma happen, and when did I start noticing, like, where are those experiences coming up? When you feel yourself having these different experiences that aren't healthy, what age are they coming up? Typically, it's going to be around the same age. And so that's the age that you need to really start working on to reparent that child. Okay, let's go on to what reparenting requires. So, this is just a brief overview. Reparenting takes it takes a lot of time because you didn't get to whatever age you are. I'm 52, right? And so some things still I am reparenting, working on reparenting the little child in me with self talk, positive self talk, right? Not allowing myself to speak to myself the way that I once spoke to myself, right? So reparenting takes some time. It's going to take some time to really just understand who you are and what you need. Okay. Reparenting requires, number one, I think I have 7 things that it requires: admitting that trauma or a wound happened in childhood, and now the adult has come to do the healing. So, admittance, right? Admittance is the first step to knowing or to doing your reparenting work. Number two, call on or create a supportive team. And so that could include, and I urge it, of course, a therapist. Therapy, right? Because reparenting yourself is not an easy task. And so you want to get a therapist who is trained in that, who is trauma based, right? Knows how to do trauma healing. And so I would say, for your support team, make sure you have a therapist on your team to help you to be able to reparent yourself. So you might have a therapist, understanding friend, but don't use your friend too heavily. Don't rely on your friend too heavily. It's not fair to put all of this trauma upon them, and they won't know how to treat it. They may be able to they may listen to you, but they're not going to be able to help you to walk through this process. They can give you an ear, right, to hear you out. Um, Healing groups, healing circles. There is a thing out here as healing circles. So, finding like a group that may do healing circles to deal with the trauma that you have experienced, or healing groups. Okay. Healing podcasts. If you know of anybody who does healing podcasts, that will be one that you would want to listen to, because they're going to give you tips and pointers and help you to be able to work through your own healing journey. And then healing books. Very good healing books. I am reading right now The Power Within You, The Power Within You, I believe, and that is by Louise L. Hay. It's such a great book on healing. And so, if you are experiencing, if you are working on reparenting yourself, any healing books that you can to, she talks about reparenting in that book, it's going to be helpful for you. Okay. Number three, what you need to do: journal or write a letter to yourself as a child. And so, what this can do is start releasing some of the things, some of the trauma. It really exposes you. it can expose you again to the trauma. And so a lot of people don't want to do that work because it can be tough, right? But you have to, in order to heal it, you got to reveal it. Okay. So writing to the little child within you or journaling to yourself is very helpful in reparenting yourself. Meditation and prayer for me, those are big, right? Taking time, I try daily to take 5 to 10 minutes of quiet time, and meditation can be different for every person. Louise Hay talks about some people have meditational walks. Some people have times where they get quiet and maybe they can't quiet their mind down. That's okay. Get out your journal and start writing what is coming out. That still is meditation. You are trying to be still and trying to learn more about yourself. So, meditation for everyone is not just quiet and still. Some people listen to music and they meditate. Whatever works for you, right? To really be able to get in tune with yourself. That's what meditation is about, getting in tune with yourself. And prayer for me, because I have to include the Almighty in my healing journey. Create and repeat affirmations. So I've created some affirmations of my own. I've taken them from other people, and then making sure that you're saying these daily. I saw an improvement in my life because it helps me not to be critical. As I said, I was criticized as a child, so it helps me to be more passionate, more um, give myself some grace. It helps me to really be able to give myself time, and the space to grow and not be critical with myself. Allow yourself time to grieve. So I had a one day I woke up in the middle of the night, and my parents, because of religious reasons, um, aren't in my life. They have chosen that they're going to follow what the religion says, and so they're not in my life. And I woke up sobbing, like really in tears. And I recognized that I haven't had my parents in my life. As I said, growing up, they were there but weren't there. And then at 20, I got kicked out of the religion. And so I haven't had my parents in my life for 30 years. So I've been parenting myself, and not always in the best way because it's been a trial and error. So I had to grieve that. I had to grieve the fact that I don't have my parents in my life. Like, I can't pick up the phone and call my parents. They won't answer, okay? Because they are faithful to what they believe, and no, no judgment on them. That's their life. They have to live with whatever decisions that they have made. But for me, I had to grieve it, right? I had to feel it, and I hadn't felt it. I had suppressed it up until that point, which was only about a month ago. And I recognized that it's hard, it's tough, and I had to grieve it. Grieve the fact that I don't have parents in my life that I can go to and really just be able to sit with, talk with, express myself to. And so that's grief, right? And so that's something that I recognized at 52 years old, that that's a place, that's something that I have to grieve, okay? And then give yourself permission to heal and give yourself grace. That's the word I was thinking about earlier. Permission to heal, right? Allow yourself the space to heal. It takes time to reparent yourself, to change unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy thoughts and patterns, right? Give yourself permission to heal and the grace and space to do it, right? So, one thing that was helpful for me as well was forgiving my parents, knowing that, hey, I don't think that they intentionally want to hurt or harm me, but they have chosen a different route, when it comes to parenting, and they believe in what their religion has taught them. And so forgiving them Forgiveness, I looked up the word because it's important to know. Sometimes we think we know something, but we don't fully. And it says it's when you stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, right? That's what forgiveness is. When you stop feeling angry or resentful. And so if you still feel angry, or you get around that person, or you think about that person and you still feel some anger or resentment there, you probably haven't fully forgiven them, right? So take some time. Forgiveness also is a process. So take time to really just be intentional about forgiving. Give yourself grace, right? It's going to take time. Whatever happened probably didn't happen overnight. And if it did, it still takes time to forgive, okay? So for me, I have been practicing exoneration, which is a little bit different than forgiveness. I looked at my parents' upbringing, and although I don't really know them dearly, or have a great relationship with them, I know bits and pieces from what other people have told me. And so exoneration means to liberate, acquit, or discharge what they have done due to consideration of their case. And so I had to look at where they come from. They had more absent parenting as well. You know, my father, his father wasn't there. And then his mom, I'm not quite sure. I think she worked a lot. And so it was kind of sounds similar to what I experienced. You could have a parent there but not be there because they have so much going on. So exoneration is really considering where they come from, right? Like, you know, they weren't dealt the best hand. And so they did the best job that they could do with what they had. And so I practice exoneration. I practice letting go of, focusing on what they should have done versus looking at what hand they were dealt, and then just really just releasing that, relinquishing that, just holding that over their heads, right? Liberating them from that. All right. So practicing some exoneration intentionally, like that's the way I'm able to move forward. That's the way I'm able to have peace in mind. Peace in mind. Okay. And so these are, this is just, as I said, a brief overview of reparenting. So look at your life. If you have had childhood trauma, chances are you need to do some reparenting within yourself. Don't neglect a support team. Get you a great therapist who can help you process and as well can help reparent you, because sometimes a therapist can stand in proxy, right, and can do different exercises with you in session to help you to be able to release some of the trauma that you have experienced so that you can grow that little girl or boy up, right? And you can make better choices and decisions and just move better, health more in a more healthily, no, not a word, more healthy in life. All right. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you want more mind altering mental health messages on Monday. That was a whole lot of M's. Come back every Monday. I'm here around noon ish to bring you more mind altering messages. All right. Subscribe to my channel, and I will be back next Monday with more mind altering messages for you. All right. Take time to subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Peace.